welcome back to my channel. My name is Miss Evalyn, and today I need your help planning a zoo-themed story time. So going to the zoo has been one of my favorite pastimes since I was a kid. I love seeing and, more importantly, learning about all of the different animals. And so for today's zoo story time, I want to showcase some of my favorite zoo animals. But I need your help deciding which books we're going to read together. So let's get into it. First, we have Sloth Slept On by Fran Preston Gannon. This one is such a cute little book, and it is absolutely getting included in next week's story time. It is about a group of kids who finds a missing sloth, except they've never seen a sloth before, and they spend a lot of time trying to figure out what he is and where he came from. And so it's a great book to introduce potentially a new animal to the kids, and it's also got a very cute and funny ending that I won't spoil for you. You'll have to tune into the final story time next week. Then we have a book about one of my favorite animals I've ever seen at a zoo, Tell the Truth Pangolin. Now this one isn't set in a zoo, but it has a lot of different animals that you may or may not encounter at a zoo. And it's a very cute story about learning the value of honesty. Plus it has the most gorgeous illustrations. Are you kidding me? Look at that. And then here's where we come to a crossroads, because I have 4 books, but I only use 3 during story time. And each of the next 2 books is wonderful for different reasons, but I don't know which one to pick. So starting with Frady Zoo by Thyra Heder. This one's about a family who's very excited for their perfect zoo day, but little T here is afraid of something at the zoo. She just can't quite remember what. Her family tries to help her figure out which animal it is she may have been afraid of by pretending to be different ones. Like, does it jump in the road for a deer? Can it give itself showers? An elephant? Maybe it's pink, like a flamingo. And it's also loosely an alphabet book, D, E, F, but there are no actual animals that appear in the book. And the alphabet part would be a little bit difficult to convey for me at least, in this story time setting. I think this may work better either in a live story time or in a one-on-one reading situation where you can really interact with the children that you're reading it to. But this is, again, Frady Zoo by Thyra Heder. I do highly recommend it, and maybe we'll be using it in the story time next week. That's up to you. And then our other option is Library Lion by Michelle Knudsen, illustrated by Kevin Hawkes. Right away when I decided I was doing a zoo story time, I thought of this book because I love it so dearly, but also what is more quintessentially a zoo animal than the lion? Even though this one is not in a zoo, he's at the library where he has to learn about the rules of the library and when it may be okay to break them. So my one concern about Library Lion is that it's a little bit longer, as you can see, maybe if I hold these 2 up to compare, than some of the other books I typically choose for story time. I want to make sure when I'm doing a story time that I'm creating a good balance of time spent on the stories versus time spent on our activities, so that our kiddos don't get bored and lose focus and, you know, turn away from the program. So the length is a concern. Not only is it long, but some of these pages are pretty text heavy, although others are not. So it's just a little bit of a gamble in terms of attention, but I think the story is very fun and compelling, and the illustrations are gorgeous. So I really would love to use this one as well. But again, it's not up to me, it's up to you all. I'll be putting up a poll on the community tab where you can vote for which book you would like to see in next week's story time. Library Lion or Frady Zoo. All right, now moving on to our activities for this story time. I have 3 very fun zoo activities planned, plus a bonus activity that I won't be including in next week's video, but that I would potentially consider if I were doing an in-person story time. First is the song We're Going to the Zoo by Peter, Paul, and Mary, or at least that's the version I'm familiar with. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. You can come too, too, too. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. I like this one because each verse is about a different animal that we might encounter on our trip. The next activity I have planned is one that I have stolen from a blog, but I forgot to put in my video notes which blog it was. So make sure to check the description to see the original concept. But essentially, I have a series of riddles, rhyming riddles, and the answer to each riddle is a different common zoo animal. So we're playing with our word association and vocabulary, all while getting in some fun phonological awareness practice with those rhymes as well. And then last, but certainly not least, one of my favorite children's songs of all time is the song Baby Kangaroo by Joe McDermott. And I think I can turn that song into a fun, like, freeze dance almost style game. So in the song, the narrator is trying to convince you, the audience, that you should adopt a baby kangaroo as a pet. And the chorus goes like this: get yourself a baby kangaroo. Oh, you know what a kangaroo will do. They'll bounce and 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 bounce. And when you get tired of the bouncing, they will bounce. And doesn't that seem like it's just begging for some bouncing? I will probably tell the kids, hey, during the verse I'm going to be singing the word bounce over and over. That's when you can bounce your bodies. Or if it's parents with babies, bounce your babies on your lap. Or if it's we have bouncy balls, you bounce your ball. But when I'm singing the verses, when I'm not singing the word bounce, you have to sit down and take a break. Those are the 3 activities I have planned for this version of Zoo Storytime. But if I were doing Zoo Storytime in person, I might consider cramming in one more animal by using the song Kookaburra. It's a traditional Australian folk song about the bird, the kookaburra, that can be sung in a round. And so that part is not necessarily super suitable for my digital format, but it could work with an in-person audience, of course, depending on the age of the kids and their grasp of singing. It might actually work best with babies and their parents. But the song goes, Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, Mary, Mary, king of the bushes, he laugh, Kookaburra, save some gum for me. Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. Right, you join in right there to make it a round. And that song's very special to me because at the zoo that I grew up going to as a child, they do actually have a kookaburra, and my parents always made sure that we went and visited it, and we would sing the song to the bird together. So it's a very special zoo memory that I would love to be able to incorporate and pass on just a little bit of that magic to the kids that I'm working with. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't think it works in the digital format, at least not as a round, so I probably won't be doing the Kookaburra song next week, but I don't know, maybe someone could convince me in the comments. Who knows? All right, we've talked about our books and our activities. Now let's take a look at our story time map. Of course, we'll be kicking things off with a welcome song. Then to segue into our zoo theme, we'll sing We're Going to the Zoo. After that, we'll read Sloth Slept On. Then we'll practice naming some other animals we might see at the zoo with our zoo riddles. Then we'll be reading either Library Lion or Frady Zoo. Which one will it be? That's up to you. Don't forget to go vote over on the community tab. After that, we'll be singing and bouncing along to Baby Kangaroo. Then finally, we'll wrap things up by reading Tell the Truth Pangolin before we sing our goodbye song. And there you have it. That's our plan for our zoo-themed story time. Make sure to tune in next week to see how it all works out. With that being said, my name is Miss Evalyn. I've had so much fun being your almost librarian today. I will see you real soon. Goodbye.